hell is JD doing on this time of night on a Saturday? I'll tell you exactly. It is 5:07 on a Saturday night. Nicolas Storellicastro, our city manager, was chatting with me and was like, you know what? We need to jump on the air. And I got to tell you, man, first of all, welcome.
Good to see you, JD.
I think it's wonderful that, and you've done this before, where you're like, hey, we got to jump. We got to get a message out on the air. We got to do it right now. And you've walked in here before and sat down on the couch, and before I've had a chance to wrap up, you're out. And I love that. That's the way it should be.
It's great. It's great. It's good to talk about these big issues like this. You know? Just conversationally, it's great to just be able to be real about them.
The Times-Argus published a story yesterday about a possible new Department of Public Works garage and referred to it as a project that was literally too expensive to include in the city's capital plan. And here we are today, sitting right now on a Saturday night with an option, a way out of the current property, and a decision needs to be made fast, as in like Tuesday.
Yes, council's voting on Tuesday.
All right. So talk to me. For the folks that have not had a chance to see the story on CAX or read the story in the Times-Argus, let's begin where I think most of us know. We have a city garage that is in disarray with a capital D.
Yeah, I mean, to say it's in poor condition, the words poor condition are doing a lot of work in that sentence.
Huge understatement.
It is, we have to use 500 gallons of fuel to heat it because it's got holes in the windows, on the sides. It is not big enough for us. We have to park, the staff over there have to have a jigsaw puzzle mechanism to park all the trucks indoors because it's a rectangle with odd entryways, so that the trucks are sort of jammed in a specific spot. You need to get the loader in the back of the garage. You got to pull everything out that's in front of it. It is the water building over there. It's not just a streets department garage. The water building roof collapsed some years ago, so they can't use that anymore. It's used for cold storage.
I wasn't even aware of that.
Yeah. And the sewer garage building where we have our only Vector, which we've talked about the Vector, which does important work. It clears the drains, clears the sewers when we have sewer backups. Gaping hole where that's stored. We have about $5 million worth of equipment parked in the garage without sprinklers, without smoke or fire alarms, with grossly inadequate exhaust systems. For a lot of folks who work in this kind of field, in a mechanic shop, we don't have anti-slip floors, right? Those little things too. It's not ADA accessible.
I was going to say, are we out of OSHA here?
I mean, OSHA's so far past on this building. I mean, when we toured this with a Passive, which does our insurance, and it's embarrassing to walk through with them. Yeah. I mean, I was looking at the last Passive report, and they timidly noted that some of the Band-Aids in the first aid kit are out of order. That was,
wow.
that was like that's a minor thing, but I'm telling you that even the Band-Aids in the first aid kit are out of order. That's the last thing on a several pages long report of things that are wrong with that garage.
There's a couple of things that you're trying to bullseye here, and when you first came on as city's manager, you were like, oh, that's okay. I'm putting that on the list, and the water treatment facility is just one of them. But this is a big one, man.
This is, and when I came to do my community visit, when I was being interviewed for the job, they took me to the garage, and it was, holy cow,
Yeah, on a good day.
On a good day. And that there's a lot of challenges to it, not just the money. The city, taking a step back, the city hired a design firm, architectural firm, engineers to look at a possible design and to look at some possible sites to build on. They came back, they looked at 4 sites, and they came back with a design that all in, we were looking at $30 million. We needed 6 acres.
This wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't. This was 2022.
This was. I was going to say this was within the last couple of years.
It was absolutely. It was about a couple of months after I started. $30 million. So we don't have the money for that. They needed 6 acres to build. You know, JD, you tell me, where do we find 6 acres in Barre City?
Right. That's
flat out of the floodplain. And if we do have it, we should build housing on it, not a public works garage, right? So, so this solution we have found, I think, is generational solution to a decades-long problem. And if it falls through, you know, I worry that it's basically condemning our public works garage and our public works department to the existing garage for the next generation. We don't have an ace up our sleeves where we can say, well, if this falls through, this is what we're going to shoot for next.
So the building we're in now was built in the 50s.
Yeah.
This 58,000 square foot warehouse, the O'Reilly Auto Parts warehouse on Morrison Road in Barrytown, not far from us at all.
Yeah.
We're talking about a building that was built in 1987, 6.1 acre lot.
It checks every box. It is the if you go back to and I did, you know, I went back to what the firm we had hired said we needed. We needed about 6 acres, and we needed you know, a site with turning radius. We needed a site where we could build outside, where we had ample room to grow and house the department we have now. And this site does all of that. Now, what it doesn't have is 2 overhead doors. It doesn't have a ramp, right? It's a warehouse. So we have to, you know, if we're successful in purchasing it, we're going to have to put some money into it, because it's not a public works garage now, right? So we need to put an overhead door so we can drive the trucks in. We need to build ramps so they can get up to the overhead doors. We need to build some drainage, right? Because the trucks come in with the plows, right? The plows are full of snow. You need that water to drain. Can't be sitting on the floor. We need to build a salt bunker, right? So we have to throw about $2 million into that building. But with a purchase price of $3 million plus $2 million of upgrades and retrofits, we're looking at a solution of $5 million for a problem that was budgeted that was going to cost us $30, right? It's a sixth of the cost.
This is seemingly very much a no-brainer.
Absolutely.
And you have some opinions on comparatively how this kind of matches up to a similar situation in Milton.
Yeah, so we've done a lot of due diligence about, are we getting a fair price? And then we can talk about why we've done extra due diligence on that. But by every measure we've looked at, it's not just a fair price, it's a bargain, right? So we had our city assessors go up to the building, do an appraisal, a formal appraisal. They appraised the building at $3.9 million. So
all right, so almost
almost $1 million more than we're paying for it.
Wow.
Milton, Vermont, is building a new public works garage. We looked at their site, you know, the site that they're doing, the cost that they have. We did a per square foot cost. If we built a 40 to 50,000 foot garage, using the same cost that it cost Milton, which was $216 per square foot, it would cost us $8 to $10 million to build a public works garage.
And how many feet?
That's for 40 to 50,000.
All right.
And that would be smaller than the building up there. So we're being very conservative.
58.
Yeah, it's 58 up there. We're being conservative. Even building a smaller garage using Milton's cost per square foot, which wouldn't be all that different here, right? Like we're not talking we're not talking about a per square foot in North Carolina, right, which might have different union rules or prevailing wage, whatever. We're talking about somebody who's building a municipality building a garage in Vermont this year, or now in the process of it, they're paying $216 per square foot. We would be paying $8 to $10 million at that price point.
City councils can be voting on this Tuesday.
Yes.
You are quoted saying in the article from the Times-Argus, if it's not a unanimous vote on any level, I won't do it.
That's the Tom Lozon saying that.
All right.
Yeah. So.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just glancing at it right here.
Yeah. So that and that's,
he doesn't want to. He wants to step aside and not get involved with this.
Well, he hasn't been. He's the owner.
He owns the property.
He owns Morrison Road, and that's why we've been extra, extra cautious on making sure this price is fair, because we're purchasing it from somebody who's an elected official in Barre, right?
It's the mayor.
And so he's the mayor, and he has. That's why this $3 million. We've gone to great pains to demonstrate that it's not just fair, it's a bargain, right? So, like I said, the assessors appraised it at 3.9. Milton's garage would cost $8 to $10 million. Closer to home, East Montpelier just recently approved borrowing $5 million for a much smaller garage, right? So every single price point that you can look at, it's an independent, right? This is not me, Nicolas Storellicastro, telling you it's a bargain.
Right.
This is the city assessors, who has a license to be truthful, right? They're licensed. They have professional standards. This is known costs of Milton, which are public documents. This is also reporting in East Montpelier, reporting in the Times-Argus, right? What the costs are. So these are independent validations of the cost. Tom has said, that he wants a unanimous vote, and I don't fault him for that. And I'm very, I've been very pleased to be working with the city council on this. I expect a unanimous vote. From what I've heard in the briefings that I've given them, there's support across the board, and it's not, I would characterize it. It's not because Tom wants it to be unanimous. I think it's because the council recognizes that this is the best option we have. And we're getting a deal, and we're solving
Absolutely.
a generational problem. So,
for an amazing price tag.
It's a building that, yes, it's not in Barre City, but I think Delcor's story said you could throw a rock from the back of the building, it would hit Barre City. And one of the often bemoan the fact that we're only 4 square miles, but in this case, it's a good thing.
Sure.
You even if you're right outside the city line,
right,
you're not that far from any particular corner of the city.
And way the hell out of the floodplain.
Way the hell,
way up there.
Way up there.
It couldn't be better.
That's why we've been so excited about it, and that's why in my briefings in executive session with the council, the council has been on board with this, and on Tuesday I'm really excited that we're gonna get across that finish line. I'm expecting it to be unanimous based on what I've heard in the room, and we can start to make this a reality.
I can't imagine why anyone would have anyone would take issue with the fact that Tom owns the building, and how that would create any kind of pushback. Are you anticipating?
I anticipate there may be some from some members of the public. I think that there's some corners of the city where any transaction between the city and Tom is going to be it won't be accepted ever. I think that's probably the reality. But, I also think that that's why it's been so important that we do our homework, that we have people independently validating that this is fair, and not just fair, but a bargain.
Yeah, I was just going to say, this is much better than fair.
Yeah, and Tom has not been involved in any of the executive session briefings. For people who follow the council regularly, they might see real estate on the agenda for executive session, and they may notice that for some of these real estate sessions, some of them Tom can be involved in, and some of them he wasn't. He was not part of these. He was not part of any discussion by the council as a body about the purchase of this garage. Those discussions were between me and the council. The negotiations happened between me and Tom on behalf of the council. There was, a situation where I warned a special council meeting to talk solely about the garage, and it was just a special meeting to talk just an executive session just about real estate. Tom didn't know about it, and somebody called him about it and said, "Hey, what's this meeting about?" He's like, "I don't even know," right? Because he wasn't invited. So this has been above board the whole way through. If we were talking about a different price point, it might have been more difficult, right, to convince people to support this because of the optics of it. Like I get the optics, I see that, but you can be concerned about the optics, but also be trustful of the process, right? And the process here has been above reproach, I think.
If there's anybody that loves our city and would do anything to step up and make an improvement here or there, it's Tom, and he's proven that time and time again. For decades. And I mean, he loves this city. He knows the condition of the current garage.
Right. Yeah, I think Tom as a landlord, we don't have to worry about issues at his buildings. After the flood, we had to worry about some landlords having troubles taking care of their tenants.
Yeah.
Tom wasn't one of them. And so we know that he takes care of the properties. The properties he has in the city are by and large in great shape, and in good condition. And so, and in this, look, I do genuinely believe that some people may have pause about his part of this transaction. They may have pause about the optics of him being the seller because of his role as an elected official. But I also genuinely believe that if he wasn't the owner of that building, we wouldn't be about to sign a purchase and sales agreement for $3 million.
No.
Right? We would be signing something
no.
much closer, if not higher, than the appraised value that we got from our assessors,
right,
which is closer to $4 million. And for people who know what these warehouse industrial type buildings are going for now, we may be paying above that appraised value. So
appraised for 3.9, and Tom's selling it for 3?
Yes. Yeah.
My God. I mean,
yeah,
it's not like, Tom, and I don't want to speak for Tom. I think he's got this priced because this way, because he knows how badly we need this. Mm-hmm. And we why so time sensitive? I understand what's happening to this building here, but Tuesday night is like
Tuesday. Yeah,
it's Tuesday.
Yeah, we need to get out of the current site. We need still to do work on that building. So it's not like we'll be able to move in right away. So we want to be able to start that work up. We want to get the site ready to be a public works garage. The longer we delay, the longer it takes to get in there. I think that's really what it comes down to on both sides, right? I think that we have an opportunity here to settle this long known problem, to get our contractors in there to make that warehouse into a garage, and to get public works out of that building. I talked about having $5 million worth of equipment parked in there. If there were a catastrophic event there, a fire, if a wall buckled or the roof caved in, we would have to replace some or all of $5 million worth of equipment: plow trucks, loaders, bobcats, a street sweeper, all of that, right? So any day longer that we have to be in that building is a day longer that our equipment is trapped, right?
How did that building do during the last 2 big floods?
So that building was very, very significantly flooded and mucked in after the 23 flood, which was the first time, we've had a foreman who's been with the department for 30 plus years. He said after all the floods, the 23 flood was the only one he remembered getting hit that hard. So we had to, it was caked in mud. We had, several inches of mud in there that had to be taken out. We lost some equipment, some gear. And that's one of the reasons, the day of the 2023 flood, the morning, our public works director was meeting with the foreman in his office. And they were starting to design. They were trying to figure out, how do we use that current site as a future garage? Because we had gone to Newport to tour their garage. We'd gone to Montpelier to tour their garage. We'd gotten some functional designs we thought we could make work. And we thought, well, these other sites we've considered haven't worked out. They're too expensive. One of them needed a bridge built to it. So that morning of the July 10th, 2023, Brian was meeting with the foreman, and they were starting to map out where do we set a building in this location.
Oh my God.
And of course, we all know what happened that night. And so then we very quickly after that said, absolutely not. We're not going to put a multi-million-dollar building in a site that can flood like this. We also have a landslide on the back edge of it now, off of Kinney Place. There was a landslide. And so we're not going to build a multi-million-dollar garage where we're housing multi-million-dollars worth of equipment on a site that could flood.
That whole stretch is a gulf in.
Yeah. And so so we abandoned that idea very quickly in 2023. And that's why, and here we are today, on the cusp of resolving this, getting out of the floodplain, not taking up valuable real estate in the city, right? Like, as I mentioned, if we had 6 acres worth of land to build that we could readily access that didn't have wetlands, we should be building housing on that, right? Because we can't build housing where that garage is now. So I think we're taking an existing building, an existing footprint that can very easily be turned into a public works garage, and solving this. And I think what shouldn't get lost either is, I don't know, JD, if you've had a chance to walk through there. I've toured several groups in that building, councilors, state senators, and it's the conditions for our public works employees are deplorable. I think if anyone showed up to work in that building every day, the morale issues would be, understandable.
Yeah.
And it's not a place where people should be sent to work every day, right? And so that shouldn't get lost in this. It's an embarrassment to the city. It's when we interview people, it's like, this is where you're going to be working. Like, Are you sure? You just want to make sure.
Sure.
You want to show up here to work. So that shouldn't get lost in all of this, right? That we should have our public employees, public works employees who do some of the hardest jobs in the city under some of the hardest circumstances, right? These are the guys who are digging up water breaks at 2 a.m. in the middle of winter,
not once,
throughout the winter, right? And they're the ones doing that, working in up to their knees in water. In the dark. They're the ones who plow our streets overnight. They deserve better. Our equipment deserves better. I think it's a current garage is a black mark, I think, on
our residents deserve better.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's and I hate to play what if, but what's the worst case scenario here?
I mean, if this falls through
on Tuesday.
If this falls through on Tuesday, we don't have any plan Bs here, right? Like there's
can we go back to the drawing board in a couple of weeks, couple of months?
Not with credibility. We've looked at when the city hired the engineers and architects to look at sites and to make the design. They looked at 2 sites off of Allen Street. One of them was a 20-acre site. 17 of those acres are wetlands. So good luck building anything related to a garage up there.
Yeah.
One of them was off of Treatment Drive, right off of the edge of the wastewater treatment plant. There's some land the city owns. We'd have to build a $7 to $10 million bridge to access that site. So that's more than the cost of this, right? Than this building. They looked at Burnham Street, which is the site of the current garage, and we know the issues there, right? That floods. You're going to have to raise that site several feet to get it above base flood elevation. You're going to have to figure out the landslide on the back end, and it's a brownfield, so a lot of problems there. And then the other Allen Street site they looked at is the one it had ledge and topography problems. So that's the site where if we built their design garage, we were going to spend $30 million, right? So those are right. So wastewater treatment plant, you got to build a $7 to $10 million bridge. Burnham Street, you got to plan for it to flood again, or it's going to cost. We don't know what it's going to cost because we got to elevate and remediate it. One Allen Street site is off the table because of wetlands, and the other one costs $30 million, right? I've thrown some off the wall ideas with the public works director. Hey, should we turn the BOR into a garage? Boy, that's a tough one, right? That would completely change the complexion of the hill. We'd lose a big recreational facility for the city.
Yeah.
Not even sure it's big enough, to be honest with you. We'd still have to do a whole bunch of renovations to that building. It doesn't have an overhead door for trucks to come in at this point. And so that's not even for people who may not care about the BOR.
Yeah.
That's not a slam dunk.
No.
Right? Like, and that would change the whole complexion of the hill, right? Like you'd have to take up a good section of the hill for the salt bunker, for the storage, for the gas tanks. So think about when we have the high school tournaments right at the auditorium. You'd be coming up and, half that lot would be taken up with a new public works garage, right? So I asked people, send me your thoughts, right? Like we've looked at everything. We've thought about Farwell Street, right? We have the soccer fields on Farwell Street, old landfill site.
Yeah. Can't
build on there. Not cheaply anyway. Not without doing a ton of work to that site beforehand. So, there's not these next options that we could say, okay, this one fell through. Let's think about this, right? It's not like the Headworks bond where, if the Headworks bond had failed, well, we can come back again, right? We can do a better job. We can scale it down. We can come back at that. Maybe we can get a couple other cracks at it. I'm thrilled that passed, but that's a different situation than this, right? Because the Headworks bond, it was very timely and important to do, and I don't want to minimize that. But if that had failed, we had avenues to try to solve it.
Sure.
Right? Because that's just money.
Yeah,
right?
Of course.
At the end of the day, we don't need to acquire a site to build the Headworks. We know where it's going.
Right.
This requires a site. This requires a willing seller.
Yeah.
This requires environmental, right? Headworks that's just money.
Yeah.
Right? This is different. So,
what do you say to residents, to people watching, listening, who are like, man, it's like, I understand, Nicolas, but I mean, there's some cha-ching that's going on here. We've got flood mitigation, raising bridges, and infrastructure changes that need to be made. We're talking about J.J. Newberry building all the time. What do you say?
Well, I say, first of all, this $3 million that we're planning to purchase this with is it's not gonna be directly in the budget, right? We're gonna finance this in a way that is not gonna hit your pocketbooks directly, right? So we're using water enterprise funds loan, right? So we do have to repay that, but it's over time, and it's going to be less painful to use, right? So we're going to plan to use $2 million from the water enterprise fund. The balance, the rest of the $1 million will come from a combination of the capital improvement fund, which voters do approve. They approve that as part of our annual request for infrastructure, and that gets funded out of local options taxes, right? So there's some out of town people who are paying for that, but this is infrastructure, right? So it qualifies, and then the Cozy Trust and the Special Projects Fund, which was basically what ARPA turned into, right? So this is not going to be we're not going to purchase it, and you're going to see this $3 million expense on this year's budget, which means it's going to impact your taxes this year. We're trying to do this in a responsible way. Using funds that relate to this, right? So the Water Enterprise Fund, Water Department is part of the Department of Public Works, right? So doing a loan out of that fund makes sense. And the other funds are, like I said, capital. This is the quintessential capital purchase. And Cozy Trust and ARPA funds. Those were, Cozy was a bequest that we received, and ARPA was federal money, right? So we're trying to have people not feel this in their pockets right now, because we know those things are, the budgets are tight and painful right now. The other piece I would say is coming back to the fact that, we've already invested $5 million of equipment that are parked in that building right now, right? And so, again, I don't want to, speak this out into the world, but if we do have a catastrophic event.
It's not if, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But
it's more like when.
Right. And we need to replace all those things. Those are plow trucks. Those are loaders. Those are things we use every day. in the Public Works Department on, as when we do infrastructure projects. So, so I also think that, we are being tasked with making some big long-term decisions for the future of our community.
Yeah.
And, at some point, voters of Barre City and the manager of Barre City and the city council of Barre City decided to build a wastewater treatment plant. And they had to bite the bullet, and they made an investment for the rest of us, right? That we now have this, we have this baseline plant and we have the pipes under our streets. Mm-hmm. At some point, a manager and a council and voters of Barre approved funding to build a water treatment plant. So now we can turn on our faucets and we have water, right? And, some of these things are coming due to us now.
Yeah, exactly.
And the Headworks is one piece that's coming due to us. And this is the next one. And, I think the other piece is, there's a lesson here for all of us that deferred maintenance never gets cheaper.
Yeah.
It never gets cheaper. If that building had been kept up, when it started to deteriorate, yeah, we would have put money into it. Yeah, it might not be operationally ideal, right? It doesn't have the great layout for a public works garage. There might still be problems with it, but it might not be a massive liability to the city, the staff, the equipment that's in there. At some point, the first hole appeared in the roof of the sewer building.
Sure.
And then it spread to another panel. And then the insulation started falling out. And nobody fixed it.
I don't know that there's that many people that are aware of the condition of the building. I'm certainly admittedly not. And when I saw the pictures on CAX, I couldn't believe my eyes.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
It's that's why poor condition is just not even enough. It's not enough of a word. It's not enough of a descriptor. So I think that, the other lesson in this, and we're trying to get better about this, but people should keep this in mind for this current budget that we're going to be going through, because it's going to be another difficult one. Deferring maintenance, routine maintenance may seem like it's an easy way out, but the bills don't get smaller.
Yeah.
And that's what happened at the Headworks. That's what's happening with this garage. We have things, the BOR roof is going to need an upgrade pretty soon. And so, when we ask voters for these things, when we ask voters for support in the budget, for support with bonds, for support with capital, for support with projects, we don't do it because we want to. We do it because we see a need for it.
Sure.
Right. And that was a similar argument I made on the Headworks bond. Like, we're not asking voters to bond for $7 million, out of a whim.
Yeah.
We're doing it because there's a legitimate need, and we're not coming to the city council on Tuesday because this would be nice to have a new public works garage. We're doing it because we desperately need one.
Yeah. What would happen with that property?
Burnham Street?
Yeah. If all things go perfectly here.
Yeah, we would list it for sale. So we'd plan to keep a small portion of it for as a shed to keep like the bobcats and the sidewalk plows, because those are basically working downtown, and we don't want to be driving those down from Prospect Street. So we would keep a small shed there, secure shed with that equipment that is primarily used down here in the core downtown area. And then the rest of it we'd put for sale. And I know that there's interest. I know some of the neighbors around the property have been interested in purchasing it. We would go to a real estate agent, list it just like we did Wheelock Building. And we would sell it, and whatever we get for it, that would be the first place that money would go would be to reimburse the water fund for that loan. So we would offload that. There would be, besides that small shed, there would be no need for the city to have a footprint down on that site anymore.
Got a comment here from two comments from Linda. We need to look at expenses versus revenues at the BOR, and she says, I personally don't care who owns the building. The price is right, and it will get them a better building, period.
Yeah, that's, amen. I can't say any better than that.
Tuesday night, we can watch, listen?
Yeah, Tuesday night. It's streamed. It's on Zoom. I believe CVTV streams them.
Yeah.
And
BarreCity.org.
BarreCity.org. Go to the agendas website, and you can see the agendas. There's a link for click here to join the Zoom, and there's the passcode and meeting ID to join in that way as well. You can come in person, Barre City Hall, 6 North Main Street, and in the City Council chambers. Yeah, absolutely. That's love the public participation. Want to hear from residents. And I'm happy to answer questions about this. But I do, very strongly believe that this is our chance to solve this. And if we don't take this opportunity, I'm not being facetious, I'm not being difficult, I'm not blustering. I don't have a plan B, C, or D, right? Like this would, if frankly, if this doesn't fall through, we may stop working on this for a while because we've turned over every leaf on trying to find a solution for this, and we don't have any credible ones right now, right? I mean, people can always will look at anything that anybody suggests, but we've tried hard to find alternatives, and I think it should also be said. I should have mentioned this earlier when we were talking about Tom's role in this. We approached Tom.
Yeah.
This wasn't Tom who came to say, "Hey,
right.
I'll sell you a building."
Sure.
Right? This was myself and the public works director saying,
right.
"Hey, look, we've tried everything.
Exactly.
We are out of options. Can we kick the tires on this building?" That's what that was. And so, again, for people who have pause on that part of it,
know that.
They should know. This was myself and the public works director jointly saying, "Hey, we're out of ideas. Can we please look at this site?" I should also mention that we have to go to the Barre Town Planning Commission. This requires what's called an allowed use determination. So we have an application ready to go. It's on the council agenda as well. And we will be submitting that by February 27th. It's due. We'll turn it in as soon as Wednesday if the council approves it. And then the seller and the buyer together go to that hearing. So Tom as the seller, myself as representing the buyer for the city council, will be at the Barre Town Planning Commission when they hear that application. They're aware. I know I've been in touch with the town manager up there, and because we had to do some homework about what was required for us to go into that site. So that's another step in the process after Tuesday.
Like I said, it seems like a no-brainer, Nicolas. Yeah. It really does.
Yeah, I agree.
I hope things go well Tuesday night.
Thank you. I do too. I will say I'm very happy that the council gave me latitude to try to pull this together because they're the ones who vote, and I don't have a vote. They're the ones who vote, and I can understand why for some people this is why it might be difficult because of the optics, but they have I appreciate that the city council was willing to take a shot on this, was willing to give me and Brian latitude to work on this acquisition, because I know that there's, some city councils who, that may have not given their manager, the chance. They might have said, "No, you know what? I don't like the looks of it." But this city council, and I think that's also something for people to look at in terms of process.
Sure.
That we have a city council that was very comfortable with the process. I think if you're a frequent observer of the city council, you know that, not everyone's, the biggest fan of Tom on the city council. Just put it that way, right? I don't think that's news. That's not a news flash. It's people disagree, right? They have differences of opinion, and the fact that that the council, all of the councilors felt comfortable going in this direction, I think is a testament to them as well in terms of trying to be proactive in resolving this. And that same credit goes to Tom, who might have said, "You know what? I don't need the,
right.
I don't need what this is going to bring to me, right?
Sure,
of course. The vitriol, right? He could have very easily told me and Brian, not interested. Right?
Yeah.
So I think there's credit to both the city council for being creative, allowing us to do something out of the box, and for Tom to not slam the door in our face when we went to talk to him. So I think this is a great example of finding middle ground, being collaborative, and working together to solve a really big problem.
I think it's wonderful that you reached out to me and said, "Yo, we need to get this. We can't wait on this. We need to get on the air. We need to start pushing this, and hopefully this will allow some time for some folks to take this episode tonight here, rare on a Saturday night, and share it, push it out there.
Absolutely.
So that we know that this important decision is going to be made on Tuesday.
Yep.
Whew, wow. Thanks for coming in here, man.
Hey, thanks for making time for me on the weekend.
Appreciate it. Have a great rest of your Saturday night.
Likewise. Everyone do the same.
We'll be in touch, and we'll be watching things carefully on Tuesday.
Thanks, JD.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Nicolas.
it.
Yeah.